Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marjorie Malte, and welcome to NYO Canada Online Workshops. Our YouTube live chat is open, and we will be fielding questions throughout the workshop. So please feel free to post any comments, questions, or to let us know where you're tuning in from. We're excited today to welcome back for a second workshop a member of our mental health team at NYO. He is a social worker at the Artist Health Center here in Toronto and a former acrobat with Le Cirque du Soleil. Please welcome Matt Eldridge. Good afternoon, Matt.
Hey, thanks, Marjorie. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be back again. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me here today. I have decided to draw some pictures of people on a piece of paper here, just so that I can sort of pretend like I can see people that I'm speaking to. I found last week that I was getting a little bit nervous looking into the screen. So one trick that I used was sort of trying to imagine looking at people here today. So I'm going to continue with that practice. But anyway, I hope that you're all doing really well. And I'm really happy that we're going to be able to speak about mindfulness today. I'm not sure how many of you have a mindfulness practice or have any experiences with mindfulness. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a little taste of different types of mindfulness practices. And then I'll share with you a resource afterwards so that you can practice on your own if you're interested. So mindfulness, like what is it exactly? Mindfulness is all about keeping our minds in the present moment with acceptance and non-judgment. Okay, so the more present we are and the more aware that we are of our present experiences and the more that we're able to let go of judgment, the more effective that we can be. Like this is something that can be really useful with our mental health and also with playing music. Like I think that it's a skill really that can be really important with performance. I'm sure many of you have had experiences of playing or performing and maybe your mind was in the past or maybe your mind was in the future and that took away from just being there in the right now. I'm sure that a lot of you have had experiences of judging yourself or judging other people maybe during performance or during playing, and maybe that took away from your own experience of performing. And so mindfulness, really, it's not about clearing our minds. It's not about ignoring our thoughts or feelings or experiences. It's not about ignoring what's going on in the world. Mindfulness really, truly is just about bringing our minds to the present moment with acceptance and non-judgment. So essentially it's the opposite of auto. Mindfulness is about letting go of our attachments to outcomes, really. So this is a concept for mindfulness that I really appreciate, and one that I'm going to encourage you to sort of keep in mind as we go along with this workshop today. So what I mean by letting go of our attachment to outcomes is when we're really tied into things working out a certain way, it can create a lot of stress. So a very real example that I like to give is when I first started giving presentations, I used to be really tied in to people really liking me. Like this was something that was really, really important, and it was an outcome that I was really attached to. And then what that would translate to is when I was giving the presentations, I would be kind of hyper focused on the audience. I would notice somebody maybe looking at their cell phone, or I would notice somebody yawning, or I would notice somebody leaving the room, and that could create a lot of distress for me. And so one thing that is a continuous practice for me is I try to let go of that attachment. So one thing that I literally say to myself before presentation is, okay, like this could go well, maybe it might not go so well, and both of those outcomes are okay. And it's something that I've really come to believe over time. And it's not about not wanting to do well. It's not about not wanting to be as best as I can be, but it's about really just being open to different experiences. And paradoxically, what can end up happening is I ultimately feel much better about giving these presentations, and in turn, they're a lot more successful. So to relate this back to mindfulness specifically, so we're going to do some meditation today because meditation is a part of mindfulness. And one outcome that people can get really attached to with meditation is to feel relaxed afterwards. And I really like to mention that because like one outcome of meditation could be to feel relaxed. Like that's very much something that could happen for you. So you might not get to the level of relaxation that you might have been attached to at the beginning, which in turn can actually create a lot of distress. So one thing that I might encourage you to keep in mind as we go along with this talk today is to notice if there's any kind of attachments to any kind of outcomes, and to see if you can work on letting those go and just bringing your mind very much back to this present moment experience. Okay, so how do we do it exactly? One thing that I'll encourage you to do is to not use mindfulness during times of trouble only. Like it's something that's really valuable to have an ongoing practice with. It can look very different depending on who you are and what your life circumstances are. We do both informal and formal practices. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to what we call the informal practices. I do want to note that sometimes mindfulness can be triggering, especially if we're feeling really overwhelmed by something in the present moment. So I just want to invite you to join in with these practices, and also give yourself permission to take a break if you feel particularly overwhelmed. That's most definitely okay. All right, so the first practice that if there's anybody in the audience that would like to participate in a little bit of a chat around, the first practice is gratitude. So we talked a little bit about that at the end, I think, of the last webinar. Gratitude is a mindfulness practice because it's all about just bringing our awareness to things that we're grateful for right now in this moment. So if anybody's open to it, I'd love for you to type into the chat one or two things that you're grateful for. It could be if you're in Toronto, this nice sunny day. Like for me, one thing that I'm really grateful for is I live by the water. So it's really, really nice just to be able to sort of look out of my window and to see the water. And that's something I'm really grateful for. If you're comfortable, feel free to sort of chime in the chat and let us know if there's anything that you're feeling particularly grateful for. And again, this is a mindfulness practice because if you're practicing paying attention to something you're grateful for, we're bringing our attention to the present. So the mind is less in the past, it's less in the future, it's kind of here in the right now. So I think similarly to last week, like I'll invite the chat, but I'll just kind of continue on talking as we go along. The second informal practice that I go over is mindful eating, or in my circumstance here, mindful drinking. I have a drink, I don't have anything to eat. I won't go into the super fine detail with this one, but eating or drinking mindfully is all about paying attention to our five senses while eating or drinking something. If you were to take a mindfulness-based stress reduction course or a mindfulness-based cognitive therapy course, one of the first things that they would do is hand you a raisin, and they'd encourage you to eat the raisin mindfully. So like you would bring your attention to what it looks like. So an example, like I have my coffee here, like what I would do is I would say, okay, I can notice the dark brown color, I can notice the light reflecting off of it. And you'd be encouraged just to spend a little bit of time just paying attention to what that raisin looks like. The next thing that they would encourage you to do is to pay attention to what it feels like. So you would, if you were holding a raisin, just pay attention to the experience of what it feels like. Notice the grooves, notice any kind of sensations in your hand. Like for me, I'm holding this coffee. So if I was to be drinking this coffee mindfully and I have ice in it, it's an iced coffee, I'd be paying attention just to the cold sensations in my palms and maybe any difference I might notice between the sensation in my palms or in my fingers. The next thing that we would do is pay attention to our sense of smell. So again, if you were taking a mindfulness course, you'd be holding a raisin, you bring it up to your nose and just kind of pay attention to the experience of the smell. And just as a note, one thing that we want to do is notice if our mind has drifted off to any kind of judgments or any thoughts about the past or the future. It's totally normal to judge the experience because it's not something that we do sort of every day. And what we're working on is noticing those judgments coming up and then just bringing our mind back to the present moment. So like with my coffee, I might bring it up to my toes, spend a little bit of time paying attention to the experience of the smell, just noticing again if my mind has drifted off and bring the mind back to the present. The next step, which I'm not going to do with my coffee, is mindful listening. So this is totally unique to a mindfulness class. That if you were holding the raisin, they'd actually get you to put the raisin up to your ear and you squish it, and you would pay attention to the way that it sounds. And it might be a brand new experience for you. Most people are pretty interested in noticing that a raisin would make a sound if you squish it a little bit. And then the last thing that we would do is we would mindfully taste. So like with my coffee here, mindful tasting would be me taking a sip and just spending a few moments noticing the taste and the sensations in my mouth, just noticing the sensations in my throat as I swallow it. And if you were holding a raisin, if you were taking that mindfulness class, you'd be encouraged just to chew it longer than you normally would, just paying attention to taste and sensations. Again, paying attention to taste and sensations as you swallow it, and noticing if your mind has drifted off and just bringing your mind back to the present. So again, like this is a mindfulness exercise because your five senses are paying attention to the right now. This is certainly a part of my own mindfulness practice. Like I don't have a formal meditative practice, but one thing that I do throughout the day is I every now and then just check in with myself and bring my awareness to the present moment by paying attention to my five senses. Yeah. So that's all that I'm going to do for those informal practices for today. If you were doing that along with me, certainly feel free to throw in some comments in the chat. But for right now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into the more formal mindful practices. And I have a few different ones set up for today. We'll see how much time we have. Again, like throughout the experiences, I want you to continue to check in with yourself. Just be aware of your experience. Again, mindfulness sometimes can feel overwhelming at times for some people, depending on life circumstances. And if that's the case for you, I'll just encourage you to check in with yourself and give yourself permission to take breaks as needed. The first one that we're going to do is called a mindful breathing exercise. I wanted to make a note that there will be silence at times as I'm guiding you through these exercises. I know this is something that I've learned from YouTube. Sometimes it can feel a bit anxiety provoking to think that maybe your computer has frozen or is buffering. So I just want to make you all aware that I will be leaving some space for silence as I guide you through these exercises. Mindful breathing, again, is the first one. So if you're sitting, I'll get you just to sit with your 2 feet on the floor. Your hands and your arms can either be on the armrest or they can be on your lap. Or if you like, you can try out the willing hands posture that we did last week, is just sort of tilting your palms up and putting them on your lap. You're certainly welcome to lie down as well. So if you're lying down, you can just lie on the floor. You can try out that willing hands posture with your palms facing up towards the ceiling. If you feel comfortable, I will get you to close your eyes. But if you don't feel comfortable, I'll just get you to choose one place to keep your focus in the room. Okay. And so to begin, take a few slow, long, deep breaths and relax. Slowly breathe in through your nose. Slowly exhale through your mouth. Feel your stomach rise and fall as you breathe. Feel your lungs fill up with air. And with each breath, just notice how your body feels. Now, silently to yourself, begin to count each exhalation. Count each exhalation until you reach 4. And then begin counting at 1 again. Continue to breathe in slowly through your nose and slowly out through your mouth. Now, as you continue to count, occasionally shift your focus to how you're breathing. Just notice the rise and fall of your chest and stomach as you inhale and as you exhale. Imagine your belly filling up with air like a balloon as you breathe in. And imagine it deflate as you breathe out. Just continue to shift your focus back and forth between counting and the physical experience of breathing. Now last, begin to notice any thoughts or other distractions that might remove your focus from breathing. It might be memories, sounds, physical sensations, or emotions. Time your mind wanders, you begin to think of something else. Turn your focus to counting your breath, or return your focus to the physical sensation of breathing. Try not to criticize yourself for getting distracted. Continue to take slow, long, deep breaths in. Continue to count each breath, noticing the physical sensation of breathing and letting go of any distracting thoughts. Now we'll bring this practice to a close by just taking a few more slow, long, deep breaths. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and focus. I am just noticing that I had my screen on the private chat, so I'm just noticing the comments now. Sorry, everybody. I had to really practice my own mindfulness skills there, because as soon as I started that mindful breathing exercise, I think one of the cleaners came very close to my door of my condo and started cleaning the carpet, I think, outside. I'm not sure if everybody could hear that, like on your end. Hopefully not. It was a little bit distracting for me, but I was doing my best to just notice that and bring my mind back. So there was a question about, could you talk about recognizing the habit of judgment? And yes, I can definitely. Actually, I think I might answer that with an exercise, because the next exercise that we're going to do is called a mindful thought diffusion exercise. So last week we talked a little bit about cognitive behavioral therapy, and a part of cognitive therapy is about challenging our thoughts. Mindfulness is about seeing our thoughts as just thoughts. So that's all they are. Sometimes they're good for us, sometimes they get in the way, sometimes they're true, sometimes they're totally unrealistic. But ultimately, at the end of the day, our thoughts are just thoughts, and judgments are just thoughts that arise in our mind. And through mindfulness practice, we can work on recognizing them and work on letting them go. So that's going to be the next exercise. It looks like a couple of people checked in with some gratitude, which I appreciate. So every day I'm grateful for having working legs and arms. That's great. I love that. And I'm grateful for having a place and time to be able to be creative without any pressure. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that, everybody. If anybody wants to check in on anything from the mindful breathing exercise, certainly feel free to do that. I think that I'll continue on, and we'll move into this next exercise. So, like I said, it's called a mindful thought diffusion exercise. So just to think about it a little bit before, what we're going to do this time is use some imagery. You can use different images for this exercise. The one that I really like is imagining yourself sitting by a stream, watching leaves float by along the water. And then what we're going to try to practice doing is just noticing our thoughts as they arise in our mind, and we're going to work on putting them in our imagination on the leaf, on the stream, and watching it float away. Okay? So again, I'll just get you to sit in a comfortable position if you're sitting, with your 2 feet on the floor. Again, I'll invite you to have your arms on the armrest or on your lap, or you could try out a willing hands posture, or if you are lying down, you can try out that willing hands posture again, or you can just sit in a position, sit or lie in a position that ultimately feels comfortable for you. Again, if you feel comfortable, I'll get you to close your eyes. If you're not comfortable, just try to choose a place to keep your focus in the room. And to begin, take a few slow, long, deep breaths and relax. Slowly breathe in through your nose and slowly exhale through your mouth. Now, in your imagination, try to imagine yourself sitting by a stream, watching leaves float by along the water. best to imagine yourself in that state. And now try to bring your attention to your thoughts. Each time a thought pops up into your mind, try to place it on a leaf on the stream and watch it float away. Do your best to watch your thoughts and not get too hooked into them. Each time a thought arises in your mind, gently place it on a leaf on the stream and watch it float away. Just continue to breathe as you watch your thoughts come and go. No matter how big or small, important or unimportant, each time a thought arises in your mind, you place it on a leaf on the stream and watch it float away. If more than one thought comes up at the same time, try to place each one on the leaf and watch them both float away. Again, try not to get too hooked into any of these thoughts. Try not to criticize yourself for any of them. Time a thought arises in your mind, place it on a leaf on the stream and watch it float away. Just continue to breathe as you watch your thoughts come and go. And no matter how big or small, important or unimportant, time a thought arises in your mind, place it on a leaf on the stream and watch it float away. Now bring your attention back to your breath and take a few more slow, long, deep breaths. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and return your focus to the room. Okay. So at this point, if I was in front of you, I'd certainly ask everybody how that was for you. So again, if you're comfortable, feel free to share your thoughts in the chat here. But if not, one thing that I might encourage you to do is to just jot down a few things. If you have a pen and paper on hand, jot down a few things that you might have noticed about your own experience here. Again, just working on observing your experience without judgment, just noticing if any judgments have come up, and just bringing yourself back to whatever your experience was. That exercise, the mindful thought diffusion exercise, it is genuinely one of my favorites, because it like, I guess for me, it just sort of speaks to me. Like, sometimes negative thoughts arise in my own mind. Like, if I've ever made a mistake, for example, or if I'm at work, if I make a mistake, sometimes I might think, oh man, I'm so stupid. And that's a thought, that's a judgment that arises in my mind. And of course, if I believe that, then I'm going to feel upset. I'm going to feel sad. But if I can see that as just a thought, something that arose in my mind, and allow myself to let that go, that in turn can help me to bring my mind back just to whatever present moment experience is in front of me. It's not an easy thing. I think that it's something that does take some practice, some ongoing practice. Some people don't like the imagery of the leaves on the stream, so you might be able to use like clouds, like just noticing your thoughts kind of floating away in clouds, or bubbles, or some people like the beach, that are like having the tide come in and wash the thoughts away. So whatever that looks like for you, I'll encourage you to sort of use your own imagery. Yeah, like, see if that's something that you can incorporate into your practice, and see if you can continue to work on seeing your thoughts as just thoughts. I found myself getting frustrated that I couldn't let thoughts. Yeah, and I think that's certainly a very, very normal experience. Like, our thoughts and our emotions can be really fused with one another, and depending on what's happening in our lives, it might be easier, more difficult to let thoughts go. I don't think that there's an easy answer here. Like, from a mindfulness perspective, I might encourage you to continue to practice different mindfulness techniques, and continue to sort of keep that concept in mind of letting go of attachments to outcomes. So, like, if there's difficulty letting go of the thoughts, then that is your experience right now in this moment, and judging that experience in turn can make it more difficult. So, as challenging as that probably sounds, working on kind of observing that experience, that it's difficult to let thoughts go, and practicing being kind and compassionate towards yourself for it, in turn can actually help to get to that place where you're maybe not so tied into them. With this exercise, though, I think too, because it's not something that we do every day, sort of visualize ourselves being by a stream, watching leaves float by along the water, it might be difficult to sort of get to that place also. And one thing that I've noticed in my experiences teaching these types of practices is that over time, it does often get easier, that through practice, we can more easily enable ourselves to bring ourselves to that place where we are able to notice thoughts coming and going, and in turn it potentially can be more therapeutic. Yeah. So I hope that that's helpful. Certainly feel free to follow up with any further questions or comments. We're going to move into, I think, I was sort of debating which exercises to teach today, because really there's so many. And really, I think that I've just sort of picked out my favorite ones, and ones that I've been recently teaching. So I think the next one that I'm going to move into is called a safe space meditation. So this is another visualization exercise. What we do in this one is we imagine ourselves being in a place, whether that be a place that you've literally been to, it could be a real place, or it could be a place that you've made up in your mind, an imaginary place. But the idea is that this is a place where you feel very safe and comfortable. I like this one because no matter where we are in our lives, no matter what's happening in the world, in our minds and in our imaginations, we can always take ourselves to this place where we feel very safe and comfortable, which for me has a lot of value. This is maybe a bit of an aside, but it's relevant. In this type of therapy that I teach called dialectical behavior therapy, we say that there's 3 states of mind. There's a reasonable mind, a wise mind, and an emotion mind. The reasonable mind is where we're just kind of thinking from logic. It's good for tasks. It's when we separate ourselves from our emotions. Emotion mind is when we're strictly thinking and acting from our emotions. And then wise mind is sort of this place, this combination of reason and logic with our emotions, which is a place that can be really useful to be in when it comes to making decisions. For example, the safe space meditation for me is a meditation that can really help us to bring ourselves into a wise-minded place. Like when we're being torn back and forth between our reason and logic and our emotions, that can be a really distressing thing. And so what we want to do is try to bring ourselves to what we call a wise-minded place. I often encourage people to check in with themselves, to literally say, okay, am I in wise mind right now? But this safe space meditation is one that can really help us to bring ourselves to a wise-minded place. So before we begin, I'll encourage you just to think about that place for you. So where is that for you? Is that a place that you've literally been? Is it indoors? Is it outdoors? Is it a place that you just want to make up in your imagination? Whatever that place is for you, just encourage you to think about that for a few moments. And as always, we'll begin just sitting comfortably or lying comfortably. If you're comfortable, I'll get you to close your eyes again. And again, if you're not comfortable, I'll get you to just keep your gaze focused on one place in the room. And again, just to begin, take a few slow, long, deep breaths and relax. Slowly breathe in through your nose and slowly exhale through your mouth. Feel your stomach rise and fall as you breathe. Feel your lungs fill up with air. And with each breath, notice how your body feels more and more relaxed. Now, in your imagination, try to bring yourself to your safe space, wherever that is for you. And the first thing that I'll get you to do is to look around, just using your imaginary sense of sight. Just notice what you see. See if you can choose one thing that's really soothing to look at. It. And spend a little bit of time paying attention to your imaginary sense of sight. Now bring your attention to your imaginary sense of sound. See if you can notice anything that you might be able to hear. You can choose one thing that's really soothing to listen to. And spend a little bit of time just paying attention to your imaginary sense of sound. Now bring your attention to your imaginary sense of smell. You can notice anything that you might be able to smell. Choose one thing that's really soothing to smell. And spend a little bit of time just paying attention to that imaginary sense of smell. Now bring your attention to your imaginary sense of touch. What's around you that you might be able to feel? You can choose one thing that's really soothing to touch. And spend a little bit of time just paying attention to your imaginary sense of touch. Now lastly, bring your attention to your imaginary sense of taste. If there's anything around that might be soothing to taste. Spend a little bit of time just paying attention to your imaginary sense of taste. Now spend a few more moments just really grounding yourself in that scene. Paying attention to your imaginary sense of sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. And remember that no matter where you are in your life, your imagination, you can always bring yourself back to this scene. Now bring your attention back to your breath. Take a few more slow, long, deep breaths. And when you're ready, open your eyes and you return your focus to the room. Okay. So I hope everybody's still there with me. As always, I'll invite you to share some comments in the chat if anything comes up for you if you like, or if you did end up getting that for spending a little bit of time reflecting on your experience, writing down some observations, and again, noticing if any judgments have come up and trying to bring yourself back to whatever your experience is. I am noticing that we're at 48 minutes now, so we don't have a ton of more time left. But I do think that we've got enough time to do one more meditation, which I hope is okay for everyone. We've already done, so we talked about gratitude journaling, we did mindful eating, we did a mindful breathing exercise, we did the mindful thought diffusion exercise, and then we just did that safe space meditation. So I could either do a body scan or a loving kindness meditation. We did the loving kindness meditation last week. A part of me wants to do it again because I like it so much and I find it to be such a useful tool. Though a part of me also is saying, did that last week. So you know what, maybe I will do the body scan exercise since that's a new one for us. And if, of course, if you'd like, and if you found it useful, you can go back to our previous video to do that loving kindness meditation. Okay, so let's one last time get into whatever position you're in, whatever position feels comfortable for you, whether you are sitting in a chair or if you're lying down. And as always, I'll invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable, and if that's not comfortable for you, I'll just get you to try to keep your focus on one place in the room. And one last time, I'll get you to bring your attention to your breath. Just slow, long, deep breaths. And relax. Breathe in through your nose. Slowly exhale through your mouth. Now slowly bring your attention down to your feet. Begin observing sensations in your feet. You might want to wiggle your toes a little, feeling your toes against your socks or shoes. Try to just notice without judgment. You might imagine sending your breath down to your feet as if the breath is traveling through the nose to the lungs, and through the abdomen all the way down to your feet. Perhaps you don't feel anything at all, and that's okay. Just allow yourself to feel the sensation of not feeling anything. Then when you're ready, allow your feet to dissolve in your mind's eye and your attention up to your ankles, calves, your knees, and your thighs. Observe the sensations you're experiencing throughout your legs. Breathe into and breathe out of the legs. Your mind begins to wander. Gently notice this without judgment and bring your mind back to noticing the sensations in your legs. If you notice any discomfort, pain, or stiffness, try not to judge that. Simply notice it. See if you can notice how no sensation is permanent. Observe and allow the sensations to be in this moment just as they are. Now move your focus to your lower back and pelvis. Slowly move your attention up to your mid back and your upper back. I'm curious about the sensations there. They become aware of sensations in the muscle, temperature, or points of contact with furniture or the floor. With each out breath, you might let go of tension you're carrying. And very gently shift your focus to your stomach and all the internal organs here. Perhaps you notice the feeling of clothing, process of digestion, or the belly rising or falling with each breath. Notice your mind wandering. Gently bring your mind back to the experience of paying attention to your belly. And as you continue to breathe, see if you can bring your awareness to the chest and heart region. See if you can just notice your heart beating. And observe how the chest rises during the inhalation and the chest falls during the exhalation. Again, letting go of any judgments that might arise. On the next out breath, see if you can shift your focus to your hands and fingertips. See if you can channel your breathing into and out of this area, breathing into and out of your hands. Bring your attention to your arms and see if there's a difference between the left arm and the right arm. No need to judge that if that's the case. Continue to breathe and shift your focus to the neck, shoulder, and throat region. It's an area where we often have tension. See if you can just be with the sensations, whatever they might be. On the next breath, see if you can shift your focus to your scalp, head, and face. Observe all the sensations occurring there. Notice the movement of air as you breathe in and out of your nostrils and mouth. Now let your attention expand out to include the entire body as a whole. Your awareness, the top of your head down to the bottom of your toes. And as we come to the end of the practice, take a few more slow, long, deep breaths. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and return your focus to the room. Cool. All right. Well, that takes us to the end of our mindfulness workshop for today. Hope that you found it useful. I see Marjorie coming in here. I just wanted to mention one website that I really like. It's called Palouse Mindfulness, and Palouse is spelled Palouse. That website, palousemindfulness.com, is a free mindfulness-based stress reduction course. So if you're interested in doing more mindfulness on your own, that website has all different audio recordings of different practices that you would do if you were taking a mindfulness-based stress reduction.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for another great workshop. And just a reminder for everyone that was watching today, if you'd like to revisit those exercises or meditations, you can do so by watching this workshop or Matt's previous workshop on our archive. And you just go to nyoc.org and you'll see NYO online workshops at the top and the archives in the drop-down menu. So please feel free to do that. And once again, thank you so much, Matt, for another great workshop.
Great, thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
All right, bye, everybody.